Hello.
All right, guys. Cheers.
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 Cheers. This is
This is the Kavalan again. We gotta finish this bottle.
This is strong.
Yeah, but this is the strong one, right?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
No
Yeah,
worries.
this
is-
Like,
it's really good, but it's really fucking strong.
This is the only bottle that's taken like 5 episodes to drink.
I'm
No,
100% confident we'll finish it.
So this is the one that when we first opened, I remember Justin having like 4 sips, and he's like, I feel it.
Yeah. Yeah, I was pretty hammered like 10 minutes in.
It was really quick.
Yeah, that was our best episode, I think.
That means this one should be a fun one.
All right, Victor. Welcome back, my friend.
Thanks for having me, man. It's
Thanks
good to be back.
Thanks for pushing around your schedule to be here. Really appreciate
Glad to
it.
be here. Glad to be here.
And also, fun fact, you are our first return guest ever.
Oh,
wow,
yeah.
I feel
There will
honored.
only be one. There will only be one.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? So am I gonna?
No,
be
I'm
able
saying
to
there
come
will
back
only be
again?
one first return guest.
Yeah.
I was like, damn, I'm gonna be the only guy who comes
Every
back.
show, you're part of the crew.
How does it feel?
It feels very good.
Are you gonna
I feel-
make up for any like lost words from last time?
Well, we'll go as long as the whiskey lasts, or longer if you guys want.
Because we have more bottles.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's do it.
I'm glad we took that detox vial.
yeah.
Nice call.
That's true.
So, Victor, I guess the most obvious thing to ask you, right? Because everyone's talking about this Game Changers documentary now. It's like
Right,
spreading like
right.
wildfire. Have you watched it?
Well, yeah, I watched it basically because you forced me to watch it. No. No. So, yeah, I think we talked before the show that basically I hadn't really planned to watch it until you said, "Hey, come on the show and let's kind of talk about what was presented by this documentary." So I watched it and. Well, I guess I don't know. How do you guys want to do this?
Okay, before we dig into like the details
Yeah.
of it and all the claims, because it claims a lot of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
What was your first takeaway in general?
Okay, so I think let me just give you my big picture on what I think about the film. I think that yes, the producers have an agenda, and their overall goal, I don't have a problem with it. I think reducing meat consumption, especially for the main audience, America, would indeed have health benefits and improve, our ecological footprint. So I think the agenda is there, and I'm fine with it. But the way certain things are presented in the film may be misleading or confusing to anybody who doesn't regularly review scientific or nutrition science literature. So that's just kind of my big takeaway on it.
Okay, so I guess the next question would be, if you had to pick one thing, what would you think would be the most misleading thing, in your opinion, about Game Changers?
Oh, there's a lot.
Okay, let's just start from the top then.
Okay. So, well, let me say this. I don't know if you guys noticed right away, but they never say vegetarian or vegan in this movie. They always say plant-based diet, right? And so I think the producers do a really good job. They do present certain pieces of scientific evidence for certain things, but then they leave a certain vagueness in the way they interpret it, so that, so if somebody tries to beat them up on what their interpretation is, they can be like, oh, we didn't say that, right? So for example, let's say, I think one of them was like, I'm trying to think. One of them was like, oh, okay, Nate Diaz beat Conor McGregor. He's on a plant-based diet, right? And well, like to the average viewer, the way they present it, it's like, oh, the plant-based diet had a lot to do with him winning. But I think like Conor McGregor came back and whooped his ass. Like,
Well, it was almost a close fight, but yes,
Yeah.
Conor McGregor in the rematch won.
right,
after
but
that.
it wasn't like he didn't. I don't think he changed his diet, right? Like,
No.
and so like it'd be like saying like, Ruiz, Joshua won. He's like, oh, he's such a fat guy, and he's the heavyweight champion. Should we all be fat guys now, and then we're like awesome athletes? It doesn't make sense, right? So there's just a lot of experiential, like plant-based athletes coming and saying, oh, the plant-based diet is what makes my performance, but really there's no actual like measuring or scientific method to measure how the science really backs up athletic performance. And the whole premise of the movie is, oh, these super athletes, right? These super performing athletes, and that the plant-based diet can fuel a top-level athlete. And I think they're trying to sort of get you to think like, could it be superior? When in fact, I think we should say that yes, you can perform at a very high level on a plant-based diet, but to say that it's superior, these are the things that are very difficult to measure, and the way they present it to the average viewer, I think, can be confusing.
Especially that scene where James Wilkes, right? James Wilkes is the name, right? He's doing the battle rope, right? And they're saying at his gym, like 30 minutes was like, if you do it 30 minutes, you get on the board, right? And like the record was like maybe 45 minutes. And then he says once he turned to a plant-based diet, he did it for like over an hour without even breaking a sweat. Like that was
fucking
that was
bogus. Like how can you like that's a ridiculous. I can't even believe that scene exists. Like, how did that get into the final cut? You know, like, yeah, I could say, oh man, whiskey makes me like, you know, like, and I'll go like do like 100 jumping jacks. I'd be like, oh, I could only do 15 before. You know, like it doesn't make sense, right? Like, it's just the lack of scientific method in certain ways they present things. You know, like. And to a lot, like to us, like we look at it and it's like, oh, whatever, you know. But like, I think to a lot of people, they saw that and were like, whoa, like wow, could I really double my endurance from a plant-based diet? Like, sorry, that doesn't seem within the realm of possibility, you know.
But do you think they needed to exaggerate a little bit to get people to think a little bit differently, because the the momentum and all of the tradition is on the meat side of the business, so they kind of have to push the envelope?
Okay, so I think that's the thing, right? Like I don't know why it has to be a plants versus meat thing, right? Like, can't we just
all be friends?
Right? Like, we can eat. So honestly, like I said before, I think the word plant-based diet is actually a good it's a good diet. We should be eating mostly plants, and a portion of our diet may come from animal products, but the majority of what we eat, if we want to be maximally or optimally healthy and perform at our best, the most of what we eat should be plants. And so we could say that's a plant-based diet. You know, where our diet is based on plants, but we, let's say supplement with animal products and other things, right? And that would be actually the ideal diet, I think. And then, sorry, I forgot where we were just.
Well, I think it just all goes back to, I mean, like humans are just not very good at thinking through in shades of degrees, right? Like it's very binary. Everyone wants to be very binary. Like you're either on this side or you're on that side. You know, you're either with the plant people or you're with the meat people. And you got to pick a side here, right? In this heated argument. But I mean, and I think that's where a lot of that debate is coming. Is like, is it better to be completely 100% animal product free, or is meat good for you? And I think that's really the debate, because whether you want to believe the Game Changers documentary, which I thought was very convincing when I first saw it, or not, I think the main question is meat bad for you? Because that's what the Game Changers documentary is trying to infer, is that meat is bad for you.
Yeah, so
that's the real question.
That's the biggest problem. Yeah, so actually, that is the biggest problem I have for against this movie is that they're saying meat is bad for you. Okay, and so you know, they pull a couple examples to say why. For example, all right, for example, let's say they mentioned heme iron. I don't know if you guys remember or not.
They use all these fancy terms,
they
and
use
then
a lot.
use like, oh, the heme iron and this and that, and then you get all scared.
That's how you you know, you convince people who don't know the nutritional arena is you say a scientific word, you say your interpretation in layman's terms. And then any viewer who doesn't know what that means is like, oh, yeah, you're
Just
right.
going along for the ride.
But in their defense, though, they do have very credible doctors and scientists in the documentary also
getting
backing the
paid
claim.
Right. Well, no. I mean, look, anybody... I believe that every doctor has some sort of... some agenda or may receive some monetary benefit for whatever... they do, but most of them probably believe or have convinced themselves to believe in their standpoint, or maybe they just love money that fucking much, you know. But like many of them do believe wholeheartedly in what they see, you know. And so, but this goes back again to why nutrition science is so confusing is that you can only look at one variable, right? So we say, okay, all right, let's measure all this meat intake. Or we're saying, okay, yeah, guys who eat a ton of meat do have higher rates of cancer. Correlation, not causation, right? But, you know, we're not looking at what other stuff are they eating. Yeah, if they're getting all their meat from hamburgers, like fucking double deckers and like KFC,
downing
like
Cokes every single second.
That's a big piece of the picture that's missing from that study.
They're lumping all meat into one
Right,
category,
right.
and there's a vast difference between quality meat versus processed meat, like you get at McDonald's, right? I mean, it's both meat, but it's completely two different things.
Correct. So it's and that's not to say it's suddenly okay just because you get all organic meat it's always going to be good, right? Like you have to sort of keep an eye on the whole picture. So like for example, like going back to that heme iron stuff, okay, I don't know, the reason that popped out to me because I was last time we were talking about the Impossible Burger, right?
Yeah.
And I was researching. They create a synthetic heme to create that meaty, like bleeding flavor and texture.
Well, what is heme?
It's a form. So iron. It comes in a form. It's like so I don't want to get too much into science because I'm not like a super expert on this. I don't want to pretend, you know. Like so, I just read about it because I'm interested, right? So the iron comes in two forms: heme iron and non-heme iron. And it's heme iron always comes from animal products, animal proteins, while non-heme iron is all from plants. Now, the movie makes a point that heme iron causes certain, I think it was like heart or cardiovascular disease, stuff like that. And, you know, again, this is a very careful wording. Like, in reality, heme iron is a essential nutrient for humans. So to say that it causes, you know, like heart disease is completely wrong. But elevated intake does or is correlated with heart disease. So, you know, and it's easy for somebody who looks at a study and is like, oh, lots of the high levels of heme iron in blood, high levels of cardiovascular disease, then heme iron causes heart disease. But it doesn't work that way, right? So we need it. So there's always a balance. Usually, most things in modern day society, like our problems, are that it's way out of balance. You know, so I don't know, like back a couple years, maybe 5 years ago, fish oil omega-3s became like the hottest thing, right?
Yep.
It's like super popular. And so what we slowly figured out is that it's not so much that omega-3s, they're sort of falling out of favor now, by the way. It's just ridiculous like this. But what we're finding now is that omega-3 is not some miracle fat. It's that over time, due to industrial farming and stuff like that, like our omega-6 fats have elevated like by like 50 to 100 times. And so slowly we figure out that once your omega-6 and omega-3 fat balance is out of whack, your body starts to get inflamed. So that's why when we suddenly started increasing omega-3 fats in the diet, we saw this like almost miracle-like improvement in inflammation and all sorts of different, again, it's like correlation. Okay, most nutritional studies can only prove correlation and basically never causation. So
why is that? Is that because there could be so many other factors that contribute to a person, like a person's lifestyle?
Yeah,
and all those
there's just too many. Like, think about it. We've been studying heart disease. We've been studying diabetes for longer than we've all been alive, right? And we haven't figured it out because there's just a million things that could be going on. And then when you find one thing that shows a correlation, then looks promising, you say, okay, let's research that. And then that study takes like a fucking decade and we're dead, Yeah. So, it's we'll keep improving our knowledge, but for us to make conclusive statements on the body of research we have right now today, it's almost impossible. So when somebody comes out and says so strongly that, like in this movie, like, oh, meat is bad, plants, it's not taking a very scientific view of the existing evidence, in my opinion.
Well, I think like both sides do it, right? Once, like to your point, like once a body, like a research comes out and it shows a correlation in favor of, like, let's say the vegan diet, or in favor of like meat eating, or like an omnivorous diet, something like that, then that camp wants to take that research and like just march with it, right? And like, look, and then just like kind of shove it in your face and be like, see, this is the research, this is the scientific data, and they want to just ride with it, right?
Right. And so I think I'm the same way, I believe a certain way is healthy. Like if I truly believe it, I will tell everybody I know to eat like this, And so maybe another some scientist does a study and he's like, look, like this is the new best way to eat. And I don't blame him for shouting from the rooftops, oh, like everybody should eat like this. He may just be pursuing he may have good intentions, and but everybody has to evaluate for themselves whether they believe that's true or not.
So I'm looking at their website right now, and
the Game Changers website.
Game Changers website, because they're putting a lot of marketing behind this.
Yeah.
And there's James Cameron, big names, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Jackie Chan from the film industry. And then you have athletes like Lewis Hamilton. He just won his 6th F1 championship. You got Djokovic. You got Chris Paul. You got some pretty heavy hitters. Why did they, in your opinion, why do they assemble this type of team? And what agenda does the film have? Because these guys have everything, right? Like Lewis Hamilton, Djokovic. They don't need to attach themselves.
Is hilarious. So, like I know in the movie, I remember there's this part where they knock the cigarette industry, like, oh, they used this playbook.
They're relating the meat industry to the tobacco industry in the way that they market meat.
Right. And okay, well, first in that segment, they presented it in a way where it looks like meat is the new killer, like cigarettes, right? Although they didn't expressly say that, but I think at least that's the feeling I got from watching
it's
it.
Very theatrical.
Right.
First of all, like James Wilk, like I mean, he's fine now.
Yeah.
So all of the stuff, he was like acting in his own movie.
Yeah.
So he was like reenacting that battle rope shit.
Yeah.
Like he was reenacting that shit, right? Then they had that test tube where they did these clinical sort of things, but it was done in a way that was very sort of like trying to tell a story, and then they have the burritos with the meat, without the meat, and then they run it through the centrifugal.
My God. Yeah.
You don't like that.
I hate it. I hate it because eating some animal fats will leave saturated fat residue in your blood. And they mentioned they mentioned some stuff about the blood vessel lining, which
endothelial some shit.
Yeah.
Like they just threw out all these crazy words.
Yeah, they surmised that this potentially could or could not have an impact on athletic performance, right? So this study was basically a mumbo jumbo, like conclusive nothing. You know
why is that though?
So they found that there's fat residue in the blood, right, after running it through the centrifuge. But what evidence do we have that fat in your blood decreases the game day performance for any existing sport? I don't think we don't have evidence supporting that, right? And
even if we're not talking about athletic performance,
right.
Let's say cardiovascular health, isn't that bad for cardiovascular health if there's more fat in the bloodstream?
So after you eat a meal of anything, then that happens to be present in your blood more than if you have a sustained amount of saturated fat in your blood, then you may have a problem. But okay, so let's say diabetes is a problem. People are saying elevated blood sugar and insulin are a huge problem right now, right? If you ate a couple bananas and checked your blood, you could check the blood, and then, I ate a steak. I might have a low blood insulin. You're gonna have diabetes. Like, what the fuck, right? It could, just the way they presented it is not. It's not conclusive of. It looks scary, right? It looks scary. And going back to that blood insulin test, if we did that and showed everybody that how elevated your insulin was after eating a couple fruits, you could scare the shit out of people from eating fruits ever again. You know?
So So they're using a narrative or a film device that they could apply, but it's not really scientific in the sense that I could tell the complete opposite side of the story by just having like a bunch of monkeys eat bananas versus meat and then measure their blood levels and then make the correlation that these guys are all going to get diabetes.
Yeah, so they said that bloodlining thing. I'm sorry, I didn't look it up. I didn't want to get in too much into science because I care more about the big picture stuff. But so I do believe what they stated about that was probably factually correct, that it could potentially improve your blood flow, right? But they're trying to make a point that this somehow impacts your sports performance on a game day.
So is that why they brought in these top producers?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like lending credibility. So Djokovic says that. Chris Paul says that.
This is going back to this is the same playbook that they blamed the cigarette company industry of using. They brought in big name,
a lot of money,
top level athletes to promote their video, right? Or promote their vegan or plant based, promote
their agenda.
Their viewpoint.
Their agenda.
Which every industry is gonna do it. If you want to be seen in today's there's too many messages, right? You need thought leaders. Fine, it's fine, but just the way everything was presented, it can be misleading. But I think going back to this, I think that you know, if they can convince Americans as a whole to maybe cut back meat consumption, I think America as a whole would, in fact, benefit from a health perspective if they were to eat more plants and less meat. So, you know, whether this movie, I don't care that they're doing all of this shady stuff, which you know, I do think they're doing some shady stuff with the, you know, the way things are presented and how the data is shown. It'll be very tricky for most people to look through past, like, will see through all the techniques they use. But if overall, I do believe the movie could potentially have a net positive effect on American people's health.
So
I do too.
So beyond, so you clearly you have maybe a bit of a axe to grind, not axe to grind, but like you disagree with the stylistic way that they made the film. But do you agree with the basic premise of the film? And you know, what if that, you know, using the stylistic piece is what they needed to do to make the point? So like from the general, I guess, motive of the movie, how do you feel?
Okay, so we need to discuss then what the premise and the motive is then. Well, for me, I think the real premise of the movie is they want to prove that top level athletes can perform at that level using a plant-based diet, and not only can they do it, you know, not only is it something that the top level athletes can do, but it's healthy for you, and they want to convince you to convert to the plant-based
What's
diet.
wrong with that though?
Yeah, why are they doing that though?
Why?
Yeah, what's in it for them?
Well, so that's a good question. I didn't do any research on the producer specifically. I know that, well, for example, I don't know whether they have, you know, their foot in the water or not. But, you know, overall, let's say if we do reduce meat consumption, this is how I see it. I don't know them specifically. So if we were to reduce meat consumption, we could reduce our ecological footprint, improve American health. That's what I would like to see from the movie. What they can get from it, man, I don't know. They could sell their vegan diets and, you know, the movie obviously can make some money, right? Like,
but they don't need money, right?
Yeah.
Like, well, I mean, these guys are all rich, and they're at the top of their fields. They don't need the publicity. I mean,
Well,
they really
I think
don't need it.
I think, and this is this term I'm about to say has gotten a bad stigma, but I don't mean this in a bad way at all. I think it's activist propaganda. So what I mean is, I think they're just trying to fight fire with fire, because I feel they believe like, there's like two camps, right? And if they're saying that, and I have no idea what the truth is in this but they're saying that the meat industry is like the tobacco industry, right? There's this big meat like cabal, right? And they're spending a lot of money, and over a long time, generations and generations, they have kind of convinced us and brainwashed us about meat is good. Meat protein is good. It builds muscle. If you want to be big and strong, you got to eat a lot of meat. And I think they're just trying to fight fire with their own activist propaganda. And what I took out of the Game Changers documentary wasn't so much about the athletic performance side. I think they were just using that to highlight a point. But I think their main message was meat is straight up bad for you. I think that's what they're trying to get you to believe. That just meat is straight up bad for you. And that is the real debate. Like, that's the real question, because that's a huge claim to make. And you know, they were trying to correlate meat with like higher rates of like cardiovascular disease, cancer. All these things, right? So it's like, well, that's a huge claim to make. And so what are they specifically, is there any specific data really saying that meat is just straight up bad for you? Like, we all agree you should be eating more plants. I think everyone can agree on that.
Right.
But is meat bad for you? Right? Is it, you know?
There's no evidence. There's no body of research saying that, yes, meat is bad for you. Like I said, we cannot draw that conclusion from any existing body of evidence, right? But, you know, like, I think, you know, this is how I see it. Like, they made this claim and these guys are not idiots, like they probably know full well that they can't make that claim, right? But they want to do it because, okay, let's say if we say like, oh, you should eat more plants, nobody's gonna fucking eat more plants, right? Like, so tell everybody meat is terrible for you. Maybe they'll start eating more plants. I mean, this is something that has been going on from day one. This is how, I don't know. This is just how our society operates, right? Mm-hmm. Like, ooh, like back in the 90s, this is like butter's bad for you. Eat margarine, right? Like
it's a campaign.
Yeah.
This is a campaign. I'm looking at I'm looking at benefits on their website, and I'm going to the part that says the bigger picture, and they have like several parts to this, different people from different angles that are actively saying that meat usage is bad for your health, bad for the environment, etc. Right? So they have remember the anti-poaching guy.
Yeah.
So he says that the biggest threat we have is that it's taking all the land away, right? And then there's another part where this guy is like environmental guy saying it's taking away like fresh water. And all of the water footprint, it takes too much water to feed these animals.
But aren't there a lot of holes in that argument though? I've read that if we went like completely plant based, our agriculture land use is even more than animal land use, and it actually takes more water to grow agriculture than it is to
So
feed
let me
the
explain
animals.
why. So they remember they said, oh, all the protein they keep saying the meat, the animals are the middlemen. They take the plant proteins and then you eat it from them, right? Yeah. So yes, because plants typically are less calorie dense, right? So you're talking about all this accumulated plant stuff in this animal, which this is not how the biology actually works, by the way, but in a way, yeah, they accumulate nutrients, right? But so yeah, I mean, in order, like, think about like how long one cow could feed a family versus like how much corn you would have to eat, like it's you would probably need more land, more water, but like these are small things, like to me, I think, and some people we're nitpicking. Like, you can present this data in any way to support any industry, right?
Yeah. Well, they said the quality of protein also matters, right? Like the quality you get out of meat protein is much higher than plant protein.
Okay,
so that's not what they said.
This one,
not the movie.
Oh, that's what Chris Kresser said, right?
Right. The movie is not going to say. The movie is going to say that the plant protein is just as good.
You can get. They call them complete proteins. They contain all the essential amino acids. You can get complete proteins from plant foods. So no, I mean, like, this point that they make, yeah, okay. You can. Is plant protein inferior? Certain plants have complete proteins, so it's not inferior, but just the amount of like plants you gotta eat to get the same amount of protein is insane. All right, like, so like if
so that strong dude, that motherfucker must eat a lot of shit.
No, okay, so
Eats
that's
like
funny,
a whole tree.
that and the vegan bodybuilder, right? Okay, so let me tell you, like, what they don't tell you is how many fucking vegan protein shakes are these guys guzzling down each day, right? And all right, what kind of ecological footprint does it cost the planet to manufacture these and like crush like a ton of peas down into this protein powder? Like, all right, I don't do the research on this because sorry, I'm not like, unfortunately, I probably don't love the earth as much as like I should, even though I do, but like I don't like do the research on these minutia to try to fix everything, right? But, like, so these are details that are ignored, right? And I'm telling you, they, especially like that bodybuilder, he's got to be drinking a ton of shakes if he's doing it all vegan.
He's single-handedly like ruining the Amazon, probably.
Nah.
Well, what they're not showing is all the other bodybuilders who aren't
Right. So
vegan.
yeah, no. So here's the thing, right? Like they're
shunned.
saying like, oh, these guys, but like, I'm sorry, like, could they be doing better on a mixed diet? Maybe, I believe so. So you know, like, these top level athletes say that it's because of the plant-based diet, but you know, like, we have top level performers, and you never heard of any of these people basically before this film, right? Like, I believe they are. I think athletes are a combination of a lot of things, mental preparation, all this stuff. And I believe these people could potentially perform better if they considered a mixed diet.
Well, like, what is LeBron James eating? Like, that's what I want to know. Like,
So that's funny. So LeBron James has been, bouncing around a little bit, but the most recently, I saw that they were trying to do like a keto media piece, and they used LeBron James, and he started eating a lower carbohydrate diet. But the way keto works is you gotta eat like 70-80% of calories from fat. It depends on the person. Everybody's different.
From fat, right?
From fat. And so I read the article. I was like, this is not keto. But a lot of athletes perform not because of their nutrition, but in spite of their nutrition. As you well know, most athletes actually eat like shit. Most athletes actually eat like shit. And
like the majority of the NBA players, not counting the top elite athletes that take care of their body.
Yeah.
But like even like the 6 men and like the people on the bench, they eat like Doritos and like
even
nachos.
Even
they don't care.
Many of the top level athletes, probably until they're 30, they pretty much just eat crap, because their work rate is so high, right? From the training, the games, their energy expenditure is so insane. As long as you're getting enough carbohydrates to fuel your activity, enough protein to sustain your amino acid needs, you're basically gonna be all right until you get injured. Then you start thinking about diet, like Wilkes did, right? Like that's what he did, right? And until you get injured or you feel your energy levels are dropping, you're playing like shit, then you'll start thinking about how to improve your diet. So actually, most athletes, like pro athletes, are notorious for having really awful nutrition. And then you notice a lot of athletes, after they retire, they become gigantic.
Yeah.
Right? Because they're used to, burning like 8K calories a day.
Yeah.
And suddenly you stop playing, the appetite doesn't go down. Not like that, like, so you just keep eating.
They're eating the same, but they're not burning anywhere near the same.
And they just become humongous.
Well, that's especially true with fighters because of the weight cutting they have to do. Because, they hate weight cutting. Everyone hates
weight cutting is a terrible practice for health. Really terrible.
Well, what I find interesting too is I think it's the guy, Chris Kresser, is that how you say his name? He was alluding to a thing called the vegan honeymoon, right? And so, like, around me, I have a lot of friends that after watching the Game Changers documentary, they come running up to me and they're like, dude, you got to watch this documentary. I'm going all plant-based. I'm vegan now, or vegetarian. Like, I'm only eating plants. Right?
Yeah.
And a lot of my friends around me have started doing that. And I talked to them like, a week or two in, and I'm like, I'm just checking in, and I'm like, and they still swear by it. They're like, yeah, I feel better. I have more energy. I'm losing weight. I'm like working out a lot. And what Chris Kresser alluded to was this thing called the vegan honeymoon. And he's saying most people are eating a very poor diet, right?
Yes,
if you go from like eating KFC and all these other junk foods all the time, and all of a sudden you switch to a complete 100% plant-based diet, of course you're going to feel better.
Huge benefit.
Yeah, of course you're going to see all these benefits, and you're going to start losing weight. You're going to feel much, much better. But it's that long-term kind of data that we don't really have in terms of, well, what is it like over a lifetime of eating plants? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, I mean, and, you know, I don't think in our lifetime we'll ever have that data set where that we can make some conclusive evidence or conclusive statement that which is better. Because, I mean, all these people, like, some people eat, like, decide to turn vegan when they're like 40, when they're 50, and then they have 20 years of data. But what about this 40 years of meat eating? Like, could that have benefited them? Could it have it? Did it make it worse? We don't know, right? And so some people are like, I have friends, or I've had clients who are like, oh, you know, like, I switched to vegan and I felt like shit, and then I switched back, and now I'm like hitting PRs.
Did you know people who said that they felt like shit after trying vegan?
No. So I think I know one very. She's an absolute warrior, by the way. Like she was a CrossFit trainer, and she used to be vegan, and then, you know, she switched over to meat, hitting new PRs, like, it was like what you would kind of guess, but, you know, it may have also been partially a number of other things. We can't say. Maybe she wasn't hitting her protein needs with the vegan diet. Could she have with an all plant-based diet? Maybe, we don't know. Like, but sometimes it's just not practical, right? Like, it's easier to eat a chicken breast than to eat like 15 bowls of quinoa, right? Like, so, like, you know, it's hard to say. Sometimes these experiential things, you know, people say, oh, my friend had a great experience with this. Is that your experience? Like, is that scientific data? Like, you know, just, so that's why I say, like, I don't really, so my methodology is like this. Like, I review all the science for knowledge, but at the end of the day, people want to eat what they want to eat. And if some guy comes to me and says, I want to eat an all vegan diet, and so I'm not going to try to say, no, fuck you, like, you got to eat meat. No. So I believe, like, okay, if you believe that you want to do a vegan diet, let me help you pick the best vegan foods. Let me help you get the right nutrient balance from what I know to be the best in your specific options, right? Because people are going to eat what they want to eat.
And you just want to help them optimize that.
Right. Like, so if somebody said, like, yeah, like, this movie, I'm sure a bunch of people saw this, like, are you fucking kidding me? Give up burgers? Fuck you, right? Like, fuck this James Wilkes guy. Like, I'm going to eat my steak no matter what. You know, like, so you're not going to convince them, like, eating meat is bad.
Well, so I think the athlete argument breaks down in a couple of different ways, okay? So number one is, to your point, Justin, let's take the top 10 athletes of every sport. How many of them are vegan? How many of them are meat eaters, right? So then, because you're cherry picking. You're finding, like, these obscure guys. I mean, there's like no one famous in the movie. Okay, but
okay, there's another thing though. Like, you gotta look at a percentage of population. How many people are vegan in comparison to the whole population, right? So, what percentage of vegans are top athletes? What percentage of mixed?
If I'm going to choose an all-star team, I'll be on the meat eating team, right?
Yeah.
Like.
And so, but then
I'm not on the vegan team.
To Victor's point, though, there's just such a small population of vegans compared to the total size that, of course, if you did a survey of, like, the top 10, they're mostly probably going to be meat.
But then that's not even the biggest thing. Like I said, will say these things determine a top level athlete before diet. There's probably like fucking 10 things on the list. All right, like genetics, willpower, the amount of time you spend training, like, you know, there's so many things that go into determining who is the number one athlete that somehow nutrition has, you know, you want to say nutrition is what it is. Like, you know, my business is nutrition. So yeah, nutrition is the most important thing. Nah, and that's not true, right? As much as I would love everybody
that would be
to
very
believe.
self-serving for
Right,
you, right?
That's right. And so if I went on a vegan diet and I went up against LeBron James on a meat diet,
Look,
You would beat him. You would beat him in
yeah,
basketball.
I mean, according to the movie, I might be able to beat him.
So I have a question. Now, I've been pretty quiet throughout this whole thing because I didn't watch the film.
Okay.
But I do have a question. I mean, basically, I've heard about the film. I've seen some other videos that talk about the film. I've heard you guys talk about it a little bit. And so I get the basic gist of what it's about. Now, my question is this, is someone just asking really innocently. As a human being, do we need carbohydrates in our body?
Carbohydrates?
Yes. I'm taking one step at a time.
Okay,
Carbohydrates.
okay.
Do we need to eat, do we need to consume carbohydrates?
Look, to subsist, you do not need carbohydrates. But to live your longest and optimize? Yes. So this is where nutrition gets it confusing once again. Is like, okay, so according to the keto camp and like low carb camp is like, oh, carbohydrates are not essential, right? You could technically, your body has the processes to eventually break protein down and convert it to your body has an insulin response, elevate blood sugar, so it has the mechanisms to do that. But is that the best way? No, it is not. And so to the movie's credit, they do say some stuff about how, yeah, like most of athlete energy demands are fueled by carbohydrates. But then they fall off right away, and they're like, oh, carbohydrate. Like if they eat too much protein, like it'll eat into their carbohydrate percent. I'm like, fuck. But like, so yeah, I think like carbohydrates, not essential, but for optimal health and if we were to say longevity, there are carbohydrate dense foods that would really benefit your health.
Okay. Second question. Do we need to eat protein?
Yes. Yes. Well, what's your timeline and what's his need and like how long are you living?
As a human being, like it doesn't matter if I'm an athlete or not.
Howie's trying to figure out his future diet.
Yeah.
So
No. I'm not. That's not even what I'm
carb-
trying to get at.
Right.
No more carbs.
Right.
Protein is essential, right? Like you have to have protein.
Yeah, protein is absolutely essential, and diet is. Fat is absolutely.
I'm
essential.
actually asking this in a very like basic term because
right.
I have a point I'm trying to get at.
Okay.
But protein is not exclusive to meat. I mean,
Right.
it's almost impossible to avoid all protein because no matter what you eat, there's gonna be some
There
protein.
is-
But here's my
Even
question.
yeah.
Here's my question. So you were mentioning before quinoa as a source of protein for a plant-based diet.
Right.
But in general, right? I mean, meat delivers a higher and denser quality and quantity of protein as opposed to, in general, a green or any type of vegetable.
Right. So
In general.
I don't know.
I'm asking.
In general,
You should watch the movie.
It's tricky. Okay. So
Because the movie would claim different. The documentary claims different.
So yeah, well, they claim plant foods, right? So there are plant foods in existence. Like, well, let's cut the quality word out. Okay.
Name some plants or plant foods that have a good amount of protein.
Okay. Now you're talking about quantity. All right. There's a couple of things in consideration. Quantity, right? And there's just basically very few plant foods that have the same density of protein per calorie or per volume, because like you can only stick so much food in your stomach, right? So there's very few. The highest protein plant foods that we have are stuff like tofu,
Soy.
beans, soy stuff, beans and legumes in general, nuts, right? Nuts, they're pretty dense in protein as well.
But they're really dense in just calorie too, right? They're super high in calorie.
Correct. So nuts are higher, like have a very high density of fats. So fat is the most calorie dense macronutrient out of all of them. So yeah, it would. So it is, practically speaking, it is difficult to reach an athletic protein need through plant foods alone. Now, if we're saying like, it's hard because the optimal nutrition for what you gotta think about what your goal is. Longevity is your nutrition for longevity is different from nutrition for peak athletic performance, or for lifting the most weight. Like everybody's nutrition is actually very different.
But how did like cavemen? I mean,
but dude, cavemen like lived till they were 19, man. Like why are we
or human nature, period. You know, like.
Well, the documentary makes a claim because they started off talking about like the gladiators, right, back in Roman time, and so they're trying to claim like that. First of all, they're trying to paint a picture that the gladiators back in ancient Rome were like the peak physical specimens of Rome, when in fact they were just actually the slaves.
Yeah,
right?
they were slaves.
And they're saying that they ate a predominantly plant-based diet. That the gladiators were fed predominantly vegetables.
I think that was another one of the theatrical sort of vehicles.
I don't think they were trying to make any real. It's just let's not dive into
well, the
that right
overwhelming evidence of going back to like human evolution was that since the dawn of man, they've been omnivorous, right?
Yes.
Is that the overwhelming data that shows that?
Omnivores, yeah. Humans are omnivores.
Well, let's look at it this way. To survive in any element for any animal, you gotta eat what you can, right? If you can eat meat, and meat is the only thing around you, then you better fucking eat it or you're gonna die, right? And then that region's people will probably adapt to being more adept at consuming meat or hunting meat or whatever, right? You get my drift? Like, I think that, just in general. Yeah.
爱斯基摩人只吃肉啊，他们没有菜啊。
So yeah, okay, that's a good point. For
Eskimos? Eskimos don't have veggies.
For a long time, Eskimos
that's true, huh?
ate only fish and like walrus. So they adapt to that, but
they ate meat and fat, right? Like the blubber from the whales.
Meat and fat. There's no plants there, and they will survive. Now,
that's a good point.
But then, like, is that optimal? Well, I mean, like, maybe. But I feel like for them, maybe for.
But I feel like human bodies are so adaptable that correct.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because I think what gets lost in all this, in this discussion, in general, is the idea of adaptive nutrition. This idea that like, oh, you have to pick a nutrition plan or like regimen, and that's what you are. You're on those rails, and you cannot like go to this. Yeah. I think the best is to have an adaptive nutrition program where, like on a Joe Rogan podcast, he had this guy called Zach Bitter, right? And he had just recently broke the 100-mile record. He ran 100 miles in 11 hours. And he was talking about like on how peak training days, he eats a certain type of food in terms of macros, right? And on recovery days, he eats, a different kind of different proportion of macros. So he's always adapting his nutrition plan according to his needs.
Very important, yeah. So for especially for athletic needs, yeah, you need to fuel for your energy demands. But then, like I said, athletic nutrition needs are very different from the average person who are seeking longevity. Let me be honest, like athletic endeavors are often harmful to the body. Like trying to lift the most weight like anybody's lifted, that's really bad for your body.
Yeah, that guy did not look healthy though.
Yeah, and like, or like,
high performing athletes don't live the longest.
Or even like, let's look at LeBron James. He is like the peak specimen of athletic performance.
He's also
like,
a freak of nature.
He's a freak of nature, but that's probably not in a world where you gotta fucking dunk basketballs to live, like, and crush everybody on the court to live. Yeah, he would be number one. But if in a world where, you know, like, it's not all about the like how high you can jump or how fast you can run, you know, some people don't want to jump high and run fast. They want to just live till they're fucking 100, right? Like,
well, I think LeBron's gonna outlive everybody too, though. He's
not necessarily. But I think that's a good point.
It's tricky.
I think we have to ask the question: what is the goal?
Right.
And if your goal is, because the movie talks about, it kind of brings together multiple points, and because it's a movie, right? It can't be like super like academic. It's not like going to, you know, MIT and then studying nutrition, or Harvard
like a semester,
right? No, it's a movie. It's got an hour and a half to make its point, and then you know, to advocate for some change. But what's your goal? Do you want optimum performance? Okay, they talk a little bit about that. Okay, do you want to have less inflammation and you want to be healthier and less cardiac whatever, you know, heart disease? Okay, that's one thing, right? Or you want to be able to, you know, function really, really well and have great stamina and energy in terms of the work you do. It's all a little bit different. They kind of try to talk to all of these points so they can get to as much the widest audience. But I don't think that NBA basketball players, they don't live that. I mean, shit, like Will Chamberlain, right? Those motherfuckers, like, they die early.
Well, you know, let's say this: the NBA player of the old had a very different lifestyle than they do today.
Yep.
And so there are many factors again that could contribute to a shorter life, and still so.
So I have a question, right? Because I think the whole sort of the debate is that this stuff, like you said, it's very scientific. It's hard to isolate variables. Like, we don't know. I mean, like, none of us. I mean, of the four of us, you obviously know the most about nutrition because you've studied this. But like the rest of us, like, we don't really know what's going on. But I do have a question for you. If you were to train an athlete, because you know, you build these meal plans and you find and you work with successful athletes. So if you were to train an athlete, what would you recommend? And what if you've seen actually works? Because all this other shit's like speculation.
I don't. If somebody were giving me 100% control and say, do whatever you want, I would recommend an omnivorous diet, like no question. But
do you offer vegan options?
I do, but not like, it's sadly it's just tofu in like 10 different flavors. You know, I'm sorry, like, maybe, like, I'm not trying to be selfish, but like, I'm not a vegan, so that, you know, like, honestly,
it's
like,
not part of your agenda to push.
Yeah. And like, if somebody is vegan and comes to me, I would like to serve them, and I would like to help them get the optimal for what they, you know, whatever they want. Like, so for me, it's like, again, we go back to this, like, yeah, optimal this, like, but optimal is only a function of this individual person's behavior, right? So if some person says, okay, I'm gonna go on a vegan diet, and starts paying attention to what they eat as opposed to just eating whatever the fuck they want at all times, like, this is a net positive effect, right? Like, so then would I say like, oh, you should eat meat? Like, it's not my place to say what you should eat. I will give my recommendations based on your, set criteria,
So it's interesting because I think I'm trying to like eat more healthy and this and that, but I do have kind of it's not really a real question, but it's kind of like if meat was like bad for you, why does it taste so fucking good?
Well,
you know
that's
what I'm
funny.
saying?
Well, that would make the most sense because
weird.
most things that are bad for you taste.
I
the
want
most
to eat
sense.
more.
Okay.
I want to eat more veggies. Like it's been programmed into me.
Okay.
My
But the
parents.
same thing with eating rice
But I
and
hate
noodles
eating
and
vegetables.
carbs.
Vegetables taste like
I understand. Okay, so in times of scarcity, evolutionarily speaking, you are designed to hoard calories, right? So, unfortunately, we haven't beaten this evolutionary mechanism yet, where
Still in our
calories are
genes.
scarce. Calories are not scarce anymore. We should not be designed to hoard calories anymore, but we still do. Yeah, we haven't kind of evolved around that yet.
right.
So, yeah, like it just turns out whatever has the most calories happens to taste the fucking best.
So it doesn't
Sugar,
necessarily
right?
doesn't necessarily mean it was the most healthy because
No,
they
no,
weren't
no,
able
no,
to
no.
gorge every day. So we have the capacity because we can go to like the supermarket and we could just buy, food every single day. But the prehistoric ancestors literally could probably only do this like once a month, and then they would like binge.
They just ate whatever existed that was edible around them.
Well, is
Right?
that inferring that like mostly healthy foods like plants and vegetables are not dense in calorie?
Most plant foods are not super dense in calories. Most.
What about avocados? Because they
Avocado
taste
is
good.
very dense
They
in
taste
calories.
fucking
Avocado
good.
is very dense. So there's like
They're dense as fat.
yeah, avocado is almost all fat, man. So it's very.
Love avocados.
That's why, like, there's a problem. Like, nutrition and the fitness industry is like. Again, this goes to different goals, right? Sometimes it's about fat loss, and sometimes it's about healthy fats.
It's about money.
Yeah, or it's always about money. It's always about money. But then, like, everybody will say, like, avocados, they're so healthy for you, and then they'll eat
so-
like 3 a day, and then and they're like, why am I not losing any fat? I'm like, well, eating a lot of healthy fat is not gonna help you lose fat. Like,
It's like the same thing with like olive oil. People thinking olive oil is healthy, and they just dump a bunch of olive oil on their salads, and it's like it's so dense in calories.
yeah, they're like olive. So that's where the media makes it very confusing because it says olive oil may help you lose fat, but what do they really mean by that? They mean replacing hydrogenated oils with olive oil may help you lose fat. But then people will see olive oil makes you lose fat. And so they're like, oh my God,
I can have all
drink
the
that
olive oil
shit.
I want.
You know, like,
Yeah.
fuck.
Well, it goes back to what you were saying last time. Is like everyone wants an easy way out, so
Yeah.
they don't actually want to change the way they live. And so, like, if you sit on, like, if you're eating like really unhealthy shit, then chances are you're fucking on your ass all the time. You don't exercise.
yeah.
You know, you're doing all kinds of unhealthy shit. You're not getting enough sleep, and eating is just one factor, but it's linked to all of these other things.
It's a million things, and eating is probably one of the eating and exercise. Like these are the just like you have so much control over your health. Exercise is like a fucking magic pill, and then like like even just like walking for 20 minutes a day. Has a super high correlation with lower levels of dementia, like heart disease, and all this stuff.
Yeah.
walking 20 minutes a day. Can you imagine?
I walked over to your house, by the way,
Yeah,
Justin.
yeah.
Oh,
I
did
mean,
you?
like, it's
You're not gonna have dementia then.
Well, I don't know. I'm getting it already.
now, like, walking 20 days. I mean, 20 minutes, like, undo. Lots of alcohol, like, these are
So
again many variables, right?
What's
Many
your
variables.
okay? So you're pretty fit, you know. We I've seen your muscles, pretty solid. So what's
They're
your
gone or up? By the way.
what's your routine? Like not what you recommend, but sort of like what are you able to, you know, eat every day? And
Well, that's funny because I recently have been getting ready for a second. You know, like I don't know a lot of people know about this, but like before I started this business and did my nutrition coaching, I spent about like a year eating garbage and destroying my body.
Why?
Just for research?
Just because I wanted to do like one of those like, oh, I transformed my
Before and
body
Oh.
and stuff like that. So I did that, but the thing is, I didn't document it at all. I only have like a before and after picture,
Okay.
and so it was not a very effective marketing campaign.
Were you happy that one year? Like, was it fun as fuck?
It's funny.
town.
So it starts awesome, right? Like I'm fucking eating ice cream. I drink like four beer. Oh, so I'm doing it again, by the way. And it started as laziness, you know, like sometimes
This is the real game changer.
I gotta be honest. We're on the honest drink, right? So like, it started like I had a rough period of work where I was working like probably 14 hours a day, 7 days a week, and so I was like, I understand. Sometimes you gotta put off your own health if you want to do something in certain arenas. That's fine. That's like something I understand that I'm willing to sacrifice. Some people don't understand that, right? And they're destroying their body, but they don't know, right? But so, it started out as laziness, and then I'm like, all right, I'm going to use this opportunity to redo everything I did before. So over the last 3 months, I have been fucking destroying my body.
Like recently, this
Yeah,
past 3 months.
Past 3 months. Going in the fourth month now.
So what kind of, how are you destroying your body?
I smoked like a pack of cigarettes a day.
Whoa!
What? A pack a day?
Maybe a little bit less.
What else?
But I drink 4 beers a day.
What?
Every day?
Every day.
Wow.
Maybe minus a couple here and there.
What else?
And then my eating is highly irregular. I haven't worked out once for the last like 2 months.
Jesus.
And I eat. Sometimes I eat. Sometimes I don't. And when I eat whatever I want.
Are you documenting this?
Yeah, are you documenting this time?
I just take like a quick. So I'm trying to do social media and stuff. I hate. I suck at it. I'm like a very private person usually. So I'm trying to do a little bit better than last time. Like.
So what are you really trying to get out of this though?
So like I'm just what I'm trying to do is one is document the struggles of changing your bad habits. Because like, all right, if I told everybody like I could get you fit, you eat these macronutrients and calories and exercise this many times a month, if everybody could follow it, 100% success rate. 100% success rate. But why is the success rate like probably like 20%? It's really about how hard it is to stick to the program. It's behavioral psychology. It's trying to, make changes to habits you've established for sometimes a lifetime. So it's not, everybody's trying to pick on the science, but it's all about the behavior and the psychology that everybody's missing.
That's so fucking true, right? Like everyone wants to point to like, does this program work? Does this
fad,
diet work?
yeah.
Does this fad work? Does
Every
keto?
single one works.
Every single
one
one works, but it's just like, can you stay on it? Like, what can you be consistent
Yes,
about, right?
yes,
yes. And that's getting lost in a lot of this discussion. So are you trying to? So you're doing this to kind of like go through that journey and that struggle yourself?
And yeah, so I did it before, and I used to tell myself that I would do this once every like 2 years to remind myself how hard it is for the average, because you know, like after you get there, like after you build the habits, it's so easy. And then you're like, you start to tell clients like, what's wrong with you? Just do it. You know, like, and that's something you just can never tell anybody, and so that's what originally, like, why I started doing this is like, I'm going to remind myself how hard it is.
So how much longer are you going to do this for?
I want to start, like, I think January, like, New Year's is a very
So
good
what, that would
start.
be like 6 months, 5 months?
No, that'll have been like 4 months of body destruction. 4 months.
How much weight have you gained so far?
Not that much. Not actually. So, cause like I stopped exercising. I stopped I don't eat like all the time because like I work like 12 plus hours a day. So eating is not something, like I don't always remember to eat, like sometimes I'll just forget to eat for like 8 hours. And then when I do eat, I'm like, yeah, I'll just eat whatever I want, eat some Snickers and like, cha sao ro and like delicious stuff. Like.
Are you enjoying it? Is it good?
You start out enjoying it, but then it doesn't taste good anymore. It tastes like normal. Mm-hmm. It tastes like normal, and then you think about what to eat, and you don't even know what would taste good anymore. Like so this is one thing I remember fondly about my healthy habits is I would just like, I don't think about what I eat Monday to Friday, and then like I'll have a cheat meal on Saturday. I'm like, and all week I'll be thinking about that one thing that's gonna go in my mouth, that's gonna take me to fucking heaven, And then when it does, it's like really special. It's a really special Saturday night,
That's awesome.
But then that kind of it's lost all meaning once you do it every day, right?
Yeah. So nothing.
I know that
food is
feeling.
not special. Like,
You know what's funny?
now.
Are you part of this program too? Or
We are pretty much like me and my wife are pretty much linked in perpetuity for food habits.
Oh yeah.
We are like at possibly the
I was like, 气色很好.
You know what's funny? I've been like, I think mistakenly, I'm on your program as well because I haven't worked out in like 4 or 5 months. I've gained weight. I've thrown away my nutrition.
Howie,
Well, you need to start documenting it.
Howie, then me
Too
and you, we're gonna get started together.
I think we need to do that because I plan. I just quit smoking like a couple weeks ago, and what? Yeah, we'll start in January. It's fine.
So
after Chinese New Year,
So
or?
this is all right. First of all, let me say this. I don't agree with this, but I am doing it. But I agree. I think everybody should start today, right now. One easy decision. It could be as simple as like just changing one habit tomorrow. I'm all for like.
Wait, bad or good? Like destroy your body or not destroy your body?
The destroying the body.
If it's destroying your body, I'm way ahead of you.
No,
I'm
the
getting
destroying the
confused.
body thing is not for anybody. So it's all about every single minute habit. It's not about like me and Howie are saying, in January, we're buckling down and we're gonna make everything fucking perfect. But that's not how life works, right? Like, it's all about changing tomorrow. Just change one habit and make it better. Mm-hmm. and then persist with that habit for 30 days. See what happens. Maybe not that much. All right, but you built that into a habit. And
What's
then,
an example? Like,
what's that example?
eat
Like,
only vegan burgers for 30 days? Like,
No.
fuck that. So the biggest problem I have with the vegan burger movement is that they are using a bunch of processes, human-made like processes that we don't understand yet. Is it healthier just because it's vegan? No,
Yeah.
no, that's 100%. Like, is it healthier? Is something healthier just because it's plant-based? No, but you know, we don't know. But
Okay, the
back
habit.
to
So, yeah,
back to
what
what I
should
was
we
saying
do?
before. You should change. I think like it's very difficult to do what I was proposing to Howie is on January 1st we start and change our whole lives. What's more practical for everybody is change one habit. Stop putting sugar in your coffee. Yeah, you know, start very small.
Yeah, the first week or first
Yeah,
2
first-
weeks.
Incremental improvements.
Incremental
We always
improvements.
talk about
Stop putting sugar in your coffee. Okay, day one. 1 month. Fine. Stop putting milk in your coffee. Okay, fucking 30 days. All right, fine. Yeah, you can drink black coffee. Fantastic. All right, and then like, okay, like every day drink like
No more sodas. You know.
yeah, no more sodas. Like no more sodas. You know, like these small incremental changes are what will make rock solid habits for the rest of your life. If you want every time everybody tries to every New Year's they try to go with the like I'm going to change everything.
Yeah.
And they fail like 99%.
Too much
of the
at one time.
And they rebound right back, right?
You can't do it.
I have a question.
Yeah, we got a question over here.
就是吃好吃的东西会让你心情很好，那你如果不开心的话，不是也对身体不好吗？
Yes. Okay, so the question we got is, you know, sometimes eating delicious stuff really elevates your mood. And so what about when you are feeling down
Isn't that bad for your health, right?
and want to, you know, like, is it bad for you? Because there's a very delicate emotional and physical balance to
Yeah.
health, right? So yeah, the problem here is that emotional eating, yeah, it can be very unhealthy, right? But at the same, you know, like sugar, as we all know, can elevate your mood, sugar high. But you know, there's no problem if you're feeling down and you occasionally have a shitty meal to elevate your mood if your average day-to-day habits are rock solid.
As long as you don't rely on it.
Right. So, I mean, if you're depressed and you need to eat fucking chips every day, your problem is not chips.
It's your depression.
Right. So, you know, it's you have to nutrition, health is so complicated. Yeah. So if we can build rock solid day-to-day habits and enjoy ourselves when we are celebrating, or if we're down, we want to elevate our mood, you know, there's that occasional blip,
Sure.
right? And that's totally normal. But if every day, like, this is the norm, is shit, and then like you have to say, oh, I was so bad for like the last 2 weeks, I got to eat a salad, you are just basically doing nothing for yourself, you know?
Well, I couldn't agree more. You go back and talking about building these incremental layers. It's like building layers of good habits, one at a time. And going back to what you're saying, it's like, and I was guilty of this for a long time, and a lot of people I know are, where they're in a funk, they're living a lifestyle of bad choices, and they're overweight and blah blah blah. And they always want to start, like, usually it's Monday is usually always the day.
Right.
They're
That's
like, okay,
the worst.
they're like
Yeah.
Monday
Yeah,
because
yeah,
that's
yeah.
like
Monday,
traditionally
yeah.
the top of the week, right? It's a new week,
Yeah,
Monday.
yeah.
Okay, on Monday. So it's like it's Saturday, right? And
Yeah.
then you're starting to think, okay, well, I'm going to go on a diet. I'm going to eat a lot healthier. But they always put it off to like, okay, Monday I'll start.
And before that,
Correct.
my last
Yeah,
meal
yeah,
is
yeah.
going to be dope.
And
I'll,
then-
I'll have my last hurrah, and then on Monday I'm going to start clean. They want
and
to
that's
like,
not only the only problem because when you have this binary mindset, all right, Monday, yeah, and then on Tuesday,
Monday
your
is
coworker
tomorrow, by
has-
the way.
And then your coworker has a birthday on fucking Tuesday, and there's a fucking cake in the office, and then you're like, oh, I had a piece of cake. I'll start next Monday.
yeah, I'll start next
right?
Monday, yeah.
Like
It was a birthday. How can I say no?
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
So-
like, so it's not about when and how perfect you're going to be. It's about changing. Like, if you can make one healthy decision every day, one healthy change, right? We're always talking about health and all this, but nothing. It's always about change, and so in reality, I don't remember if we talked about this on the last podcast, but science is where it needs to be for nutrition. In terms of maybe not 100%, like we were saying, there's a lot of inconclusive stuff. But if we're talking about, we need to spend all our time figuring out how can we convince people to change their behavior to make healthier decisions. When we have really spent the time to evaluate this, I think whatever nutritional science data is out there, like we'll have even better data, better scientific data to say like, oh, yeah, because like let's say, all right, we say the vegan diet is the best way to do it, but we can only get like 5 people to adhere to a vegan diet. You know, like then we have no data, right? Mm-hmm. Or if we say like this macronutrient balance is better than this macronutrient balance with this variety of vegetables, like if we can convince people to, you know, really focus on their behaviors and psychology, I think it's going to be easy to improve people's health.
Exactly. Like you're saying, it's so heavily focused on the physical rather than the mental aspects of it all.
Yes. I think, and that's why life is so confusing these days, right? Like, there's so much mental shit going on. And the physical stuff, like, dude, we're living longer than we've ever have in, like, centuries, right? Like, and everybody just wants to live fucking forever, which there's a problem with that in itself.
Yeah.
But, like, so how do, you know, like, everybody should have their own definition of life quality and whatever they want to do. And so, like, going back to what my theory on nutrition is, like, I don't try to convince anybody that their dietary belief is wrong, right? Vegan, keto. Even though, like, I don't recommend certain things to, like, who people or who are blank slate, I wouldn't recommend keto or veganism or vegetarianism to. But, you know, if they want to do that, I fully support them. And there's a great way to live a very long and healthy life. And as far as we can see, perform at a very high level of athleticism, right? So, you know, like, I think everybody just needs to stop attacking each other, and you know, there's an optimal way for every way of living, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's interesting. We started the conversation with zoomed in on this movie, the controversy, the polarization, and it could apply to any topic. We see this all the time, but the question isn't like plant-based versus meat. It's more what you're saying is it's how do we convince people to change all of their behaviors, how they sleep, you know, how they eat, how they work out, how they meditate, blah, blah, blah. And then the real question is like, how do you stay true to the plan that you choose, because most of the plans are good. Whether because no one's saying like eat hamburgers all day, right? No motherfucker's saying eat hamburgers.
No one's saying.
Well, Victor's saying like 4 months of eating hamburgers
The all
every day.
chicken nugget diet.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, Usain Bolt, right? But it's no one's saying like fucking eat like Skittles every day. It's or M&Ms.
I think it's very simple, you know, like it's just about making improvements, however small. So the reason these kind of this film Game Changers works is it's better than, as egregious as some of the methods or statements they make are, is better than nobody saying anything it's better than nobody saying anything like about your diet. You know, it's better than nobody making, like, for a lot of people, if they've been eating like fucking at McDonald's every day for the last 2 months, like, if they heard this and decided like, oh, I should make a change, then it's a net positive effect, right?
Absolutely.
So the important thing is not about what's perfect. It's about what can we all do to make a positive change. So I think that's why. So that's why, like, I thought I was gonna be like super angry, like when I watched this movie. Like I said, like I told Justin before the show, like I hadn't watched the movie because I was gonna get pissed off. But then, like, I was watching. I was like, you know what, like, you know, in reality, I think a lot of people's health may benefit from watching this movie, whether their takeaway was scientifically correct or whether or not, they
went as extreme as the film
whatever. I think that a lot of people's health would benefit.
Yeah.
And so the only thing, like, the average person, but I would say if the average athlete, this is because I'm into sports nutrition. I'm not into longevity nutrition. Like, that's not, I study it to know about it, but it's not what I'm into. And so, for the average athlete, it's difficult. It's more difficult. It's more difficult to follow a vegetarian diet.
There's the practicality of it, but to your point, it's whether or not the science is like 100% meticulously correct. The intention of the movie generally can be taken as positive, which is not true for the smoking, right? Like, I mean,
I believe that.
That. Like, we can't sort of mistake that.
That's
like the
why
smoking shit, shit just ain't good for you.
That's why I'm so okay. Like, I did not get upset about this video at all, or this movie at all. You know, like,
They talked about smoking in the Game Changers?
No. He's talking about, like, in terms of the
advertisement,
movement.
the playbook.
Yeah.
Right? Because the playbook for smoking was
like,
I mean, that's just like, now in hindsight, we know that shit was just not legit. So whether or not they should have compared it to the meat stuff, okay,
Man,
that's
that was
another
egregious. Yeah, but it's fine.
But like plant-based diets, I don't think, like, there's nothing you can say like the intention behind plant-based diet is like evil or anything.
Well, the
like
general
that.
consensus is plants
good.
in general, eating plants is
so
beneficial.
generally the intention, I think you can take it as generally positive.
I'm happy with it. Yeah, like, so that's why, everybody's gonna do some questionable massaging of data,
And we don't know where the money is actually coming from. Like, there's all these big names attached to Game Changers, but where's the money, like, behind
At the end
it?
of the day, I mean, let's be honest here. I don't want to sound like one of those extremists or like, I mean, what I'm trying to get at is these kind of films all have agendas.
Yeah,
right?
of course.
And whether it's for profit or for any other reason, there's an agenda behind it. So anytime any type of message that is being sent that has an agenda behind it is going to be biased.
But I think, yeah, and at the end of the day, I think the main takeaway here is a well-made documentary can convince you of almost anything. Like a well-made documentary can convince you that Bigfoot is real, right? Like it's just depends on how well made the documentary is. It really can convince you of anything.
Yeah. I think and I think they presented the data in a very convincing way for people who are not very polarized or people who are not very
or lazy to do research.
Not lazy to do research, but have a keen eye for evaluating research. Because research, as we all know, can be very flawed. Very flawed. Research, they like to point out like research funded by whatever industry.
They could be biased too.
Yeah. And there's a lot of research biased for the vegan industry, right? Like, so, you know, it goes both ways. It goes both ways.
Do you think we can, okay, so my mom has this message that she always says to me whenever I say anything that's a bit extreme. And maybe your moms have all said this as well. Whenever I say something that's a bit extreme, she always replies with, Howie. It's very simple. Anything that is too much is no good.
Yes.
Anything that's too extreme is no good.
And that goes back to what you said in the first episode. It's all about balance. A balanced diet is kind of your motto.
Moderation. I think, I mean, like, whiskey is fantastic in moderation.
Yeah.
Right? And like, if you drink every day, like you drink a fucking bottle by yourself, then you got a fucking problem, right?
Well, as we look over the wall, if you drink a bottle every week on Sundays, you got some fucking problems.
No. Like, as a friend who enjoys that bottle with you, I think that's okay.
I think the amount we drink is okay.
It's okay.
But to kind of wrap it up, I mean, I think you guys said it perfectly, and I haven't really heard anyone when they talk about game changers really talk about kind of what we mentioned here is about what is the overall net effect, right? Because everyone wants to get boggled in and honed down on the argument.
Yeah.
Science,
the left and the right.
Yeah, they want to take part in that divisive kind of argument at that debate. Like, which side are you on? Are you on their side or are you on this side? Like, where is it? And they're trying to like point out like different like, you know, flaws in the argument or holes in everyone. Like, I got you on this, I got you on that. But I think what we had here today was very true, and I couldn't agree with you guys anymore. It's like, what is the net positive effect here? And in my mind, I think after thinking about it and after having this discussion, I do think, and I agree with you guys, that the overall net effect of the Game Changers documentary is positive. Because I think most people, like me, I'm not going to be a vegan. I'm not going to, just become a vegan. I'm going to eat an omnivorous diet. I'm going to keep meat in my diet. But we can all agree that eating more plant foods is going to be a healthy choice. That's a healthy decision to incorporate.
100%.
And if this documentary, if it can convince more people to incorporate more plant foods in their diet, not to say that they need to become vegetarian.
Maybe like a higher ratio.
You know? Exactly. Just 100%, eat a little more salad. Eat a little more vegetables in your diet.
Yeah.
Everyone should. That is a net positive effect. And I think that is the main takeaway.
Yeah. And I think, and to that point, I think that right now, like veggie, like there's not that many good veggie options. It tastes like shit. I don't like it.
Yeah.
So if more people eat the stuff.
Oh God, I hate vegetables.
Like if more people eat like plant-based stuff, then there's going to be more restaurants and, you know, more people catering to that. And then the food will taste better and it'll be like a positive cycle.
It's tricky. It's tricky though, because they're
gonna put.
Let's
that
not
fake,
open up this whole can of worms.
They're gonna put that fake ass
yummy
that fake ass heme in it, right?
No. So I don't know. I'm not gonna say it's good or bad. I don't know yet. Like, I just believe that human synthesized products are never gonna be as healthy as what roams the earth or grows from the ground. I feel strongly about that.
If only in the future they can find a way to make vegetables like as delicious as like a cheeseburger.
But then you would eat too much. Then
But I don't think you can eat too much vegetables.
you-
You
no,
can
no,
eat
no,
too
no.
much
Yeah, you
vegetables.
can.
there are
3
the-
avocados a day.
Yeah.
No, an avocado isn't technically a vegetable, is it?
It is. It is.
It
It is a
is?
vegetable. It's a plant food. It's a plant food.
It's
Yeah.
a plant food, but is it a
It
vegetable?
is a vegetable.
It's
It is a
plant-based.
Well,
I thought it was a fruit. I thought avocado was classified
It
as a
depends
fruit,
on
no?
your definition. Some people say
Because it has a
fruits
seed
have
kernel.
a seeds, so it could be a fruit. But fruit and vegetables generally same category, plant food, right? So I mean, like, I believe that natural food, man. Like, eventually, like a balance of natural foods. Well, you can't go wrong. You can't go wrong.
Balance, moderation.
And the occasional chicken nugget. It's all
You ain't
right.
gonna die.
It's all good.
And the occasional chicken.
All good.
I often partake in the chicken nugget.
I think we all do.
Well, Victor, thank you so much for coming back.
Dude,
It's always a pleasure.
I hope we can do this again.
We will.
Yeah.
We will definitely do this
Yes.
again.
Regular guest.
All right, here's to the
Cheers.
Game Changers.
Cheers.
No matter what you think about it, take away what you want to take away. And for us, we think it's an overall net positive. Not that we necessarily condone veganism or anything like that, but you should be eating more plant foods. And I think that's my personal takeaway from it.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, guys.
All right.
Cheers, fellas. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Anytime. We'll have you back soon. I'm Justin.
I'm Eric.
And I'm Howie.
Peace, guys.
But as the sun will see